My mission is simple, to help you protect your family and keep more of your money. I'm here to help level the playing field for families and those who seek the truth. There's always a new way to make money, but at the end of the day, it's your family's security and your legacy that matter. And I promise to help you protect what's really important to you. Legacy Money starts now. Wow, hello out there. It's Barry Page with Legacy Money. Welcome to the program. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to be live on YouTube and Facebook. And I'm going to try to answer any questions or comments in the chat. But I just want to welcome you to the show. We've got a special guest today. And we're going to discuss debt and how you can conquer debt and become debt-free for life. My special guest, got a little feedback there. Can you hear me okay, David?
I can hear you fine.
Welcome to the program. David Saucer is a good friend of mine. We've been colleagues for several years now. And I met David through some friends, and he's lived in the great state of Louisiana. Now he's in St. Louis. How's everything up there in St. Louis, David?
It's good. It's about 60 degrees today, sun shining. And now I have 4 seasons. In Louisiana, I had 2 seasons, hot and hotter.
Well, happy Valentine's Day, by the way. And to all you out there listening, happy Valentine's Day. But I discovered something. Of course, we just ended Mardi Gras down here yesterday. It's Ash Wednesday today, and of course Valentine's. But I discovered that Mardi Gras was big up there in St. Louis too, huh?
Yeah, there's a big French connection here. They had Mardi Gras in our neighborhood yesterday, and they do it a little different. So the food here, it's not as spicy. It's boiled shrimp, but it's not boiled shrimp. Potatoes are potatoes, but it's not really. So, but I'm happy. Anytime we get a taste of home, I'm happy.
Yeah, probably a little better on the stomach too. I
probably
imagine. So. Well, let me say a little bit about David. David is a financial advisor. He works with families to help them preserve their assets, and also he's kind of moved into this world where he's helping people conquer their debt, and he's got a program called Debt Free for Life, which we're going to get into, and he's going to talk a little about it. But he's also the author of more than a few books. The Cash Residence is one that I read many years ago, but you have a new book out there called The Missing Piece, a recent book, David. Is that right?
It is. It's on Amazon.
Awesome. Well, we will, if you stay with us through the entire program, at the end, we're going to offer you a free gift from David. He's got a link, and he will. I think it's a book, David, that you have.
Yes, it's for anyone who's participating today. They can qualify for a complimentary copy of one of our books, one of our 7 books, and just for shipping and handling. So it's just simple. But for anyone who stays, you can get in touch with Barry, and we'll make sure we get that out to you.
Perfect. So I'm really, really excited about our program today. So whether or not you're watching us live or you're watching us on the recording, again, just stay with us, and we're gonna get into really what's going on and how you can conquer your debt and live debt free for life. But I wanted to just share a few statistics before we get started here, and put this on the screen. Hopefully you can see this. So, whoops. As usual, I went too far. Shared the wrong screen here. Here we go. All right. So I took a few screenshots of some recent news, and right here from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, their Center for Microeconomic Data. And of course, we're talking about personal economics here, but this is specific to household debt. And it said this is at the end of 2023 for the quarter 4 of 2023. Household debt reaches $17.5 trillion. and delinquency rates rise. Now, that is pretty scary. They go on to say auto loan delinquency rates are going up. So many people are in debt. And one of the biggest areas that they're in debt with is credit card debt. So I wanted to show you this. This was from Forbes Advice. And it's sharing here the average credit card debt interest rate just this week. Overall, the average 27.91 is the average credit card rate. But it doesn't really matter if you got airline cards, hotel cards, rewards cards. They fluctuate. Business credit cards between 25 and 30%. So that average overall, 27.91% interest. That's not good. And I know a lot of people have debt. So wanted to look at it by age group. And this, a lot of people think of debt as maybe young people, I think. But this breaks it down by age group. And as you can see here, of course, the biggest is right here in the middle, 30 to 49-year-olds and on up to 64. But even people over the age of 65 have a lot of debt. Credit card balances specifically is what this chart is from Statistica. So it's pretty amazing. But David, kind of jumping on into today's program, tell us a little bit about, your backstory. How did you, first of all, I know weren't you a pastor?
Yeah, we've been in the ministry and pastoral roles for almost 30 years.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background and how you shifted into financial advisory, and just for the audience out there, tell us a little bit.
So I met my wife at Bible college in 1988. We got married. We were young and in love, and we were broke, but we didn't care. We just didn't care. Fast forward 35 years, we've got 2 grown children, going to be 4 grandchildren. About 25 years ago, I met a man at church. He said, "David, you should consider learning about the insurance financial services business." And I said, "Okay," and started working in that. Over the past 15 years, my focus has changed, maybe 15 or 18 years, because I'm 57. When I was 37, 40, I met a man at an event, and he heard me saying, where do I put $50,000 a year? Where do I put $30,000 a year? He was nice enough, Barry will love this. He was nice enough at the airport to come over and hand me a book. Barry's going to jump off in the airport, he handed me this book.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
He said, "David," he said, "all of your questions that you've been asking are answered in this book."
So this was the stranger that you met at the airport.
It was actually Barry. It was at the Ohio National PGA meeting.
Oh, okay.
And it was I don't know how many years ago. And so I'm sitting in the airport, and I had to ask all these questions because as advisors, we don't work for GM. We don't work for,
right.
We work and we have to build. And so I was asking those questions. I'm 40 years old. Where do I put 30,000 a year or 50,000 a year when I sell something? And he came over. I think his name was Howard McCormick. Do you know him?
It doesn't ring a bell.
Arkansas. He's from Arkansas.
Okay.
And he literally just came over and said, "The answers to your question is here."
Wow.
Okay.
That's
Fast
awesome.
forward. I went on a really accelerated journey. That's how the books that I've written came out, was this 2 or 3 year journey of something that I didn't know. They usually say that as an advisor, your sphere is probably 10 years younger and 10 years older. People that you connect to. So maybe 10 years ago, I started really, really focusing on transfer of wealth, the power of the asset that I love to talk about. And then I remember sitting in an event, and this man who really was the proponent of the debt conversation. He asked a question. He said, "I went to I went to Florida State University for a ball game. He said, I'm standing at the top of this stadium with 100,000 people. And he said, what do all of them have in common? And if they have it in common, how can I offer and service them? You probably heard this man talk about this. He said, they all have debt.
Yes.
They all have debt. And so that triggered something in me to always want to learn about the smart way to do that. When you fast forward to one of the most dominant voices on radio and in the sphere about debt, there's a guy who talks about the snowball effect and putting away money for an emergency fund. He talks about it in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And his program actually helped my daughter. But when they got debt free, Barry, they had nothing left. I said, oh, that's a challenge.
Yes.
They're debt free and they're smarter, but they don't have anything at the end. Is there a better way? So part of the program that we work with, I show a good, a better, and a best way. A good, a better, and a best way to do something like that on becoming debt free. So in the past few years, we've worked with churches, we've worked with small groups. I have a few groups across the country that I advise. They don't know how to do that, and so they'll bring them to us. We'll educate them. One of the things Barry will show you today is anyone who wants to explore this program, they get a complimentary report. Doesn't cost them anything to see this is where I am and this is where I can be. And Barry asked me earlier a question about the certain kind of individual that seems to gravitate toward this. And I will always ask the question, can you tell me how you feel about
yes.
this?
Yes.
Not how do you think about it, but how you feel. Because Barry's probably experienced it. I've experienced crushing debt that affected the stress of my life, affected my relationships, affected everything when you have that crushing debt.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I want to work with people and help people that I want them to feel like if there's something I can do, I want to learn more about it. At least let me learn more about it. And so that's kind of what we've been doing along with the other parts of our practice. So that's a short answer to
that's
a short question.
Yeah, that's great. So tell me, what are you doing? So you show people when they come to see you, you provide them with that. We're going to go over it here in a second, and then they can actually communicate with you on this pay down of their debt. That's awesome. I think that's fantastic how y'all put that together. But tell me, why do you think specifically, when we were growing up, you mentioned when you got married, when you met your wife, you didn't have a lot, you had some debt. And, I was kind of just the opposite. I made a lot of money young in college. I felt like I was on top of the world. And obviously we go through cycles in life, but I don't feel like back then, when I say back then, kind of in the 80s, growing up, maybe in the 70s and 80s and 90s, people had as much debt as they do today. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but, I just showed you the numbers.
Yeah, I don't think it was as accessible.
Yeah. Okay. When you say accessible, the credit cards and things of that nature?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now people have access to the credit cards, you think is what's causing this?
No doubt. They have learned the system. The credit card companies have learned the system that minimum payment thing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, do they love that or what? And that minimum payment, it's almost like, but it's more consumer debt. This we talked earlier about individuals who are now signing on to a $1,200 a month car note. Can you imagine?
So what do you see as the risk? Is it more the debt, or is it more, people aren't saving, or is it, the market, or is it taxes? What do you see as the risk out there for the average family?
I think they're just crushed by debt. They're crushed by consumer debt. And when you do the report, when you actually see it on paper, it's a little bit like an x-ray. I don't know if you've ever gone to the doctor and had an x-ray.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you have to be a professional to read that x-ray. Look, short story. I remember going in to the doctor for an x-ray, and I think it was on my shoulder, and went in there and they put it up on the board. Well, the doctor didn't come in. He didn't come in for way too long. Well, I got the bright idea to turn that light on the x-ray. All I saw was black in my lungs because I couldn't read the thing. Well, it wasn't that. But when you put all of your debt on a report and says, this is where I am, you have to look at it.
Sure.
And then you have to decide, is there something I can do about it? And so many people just don't want to look at it. But
go ahead.
My opinion is it's the crushing debt, consumer debt, that, well, I'm just paying the minimum. And then I move it from this card to that card. And, oh, this is 0%, but they're only charging me 3% to move 10 grand. So that's $300 that, so it's this never ending, the snowball is against them as opposed to being for them.
Well, that's a great point, because it seems like people are so, they're kind of chasing this dream that they're going to get rich, whether it be with crypto or the stock market. But when they have to come face to face with the reality of the debt, how do they respond? I mean, do you feel like people kind of put it in a drawer and forget about it, and the interest just compounds, or do people really want to solve this?
Some do. I would say it's probably 50-50.
Okay.
Some don't want to address it. They're just a minimum payment. I don't want to address it. Maybe rates will come down. And I'm not saying that that wasn't me in my 20s and 30s. I mean, when you're raising kids, you're doing all those things. I move one debt to the next card.
Sure.
But it eventually catches up. But the other side is you have individuals that say, you know what, I want to do something. Can you just teach me how to do something about this?
Right.
And that's the clients that we help.
Sure.
I can't help them if they don't want to address it. But if they do, then it's just, let's get educated on how to do it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, what are your thoughts on maybe some other things that are going on in the economy? Maybe inflation. How does that affect debt?
Well, I walked into the grocery store the other day, and I was by myself. I said, Cindy, I'm going to the market.
Yeah.
And I walked through there, and I told her, I said, that's why we go to Sam's. That's why we buy in bulk, because it's 25% more to buy mustard at the market.
Right.
And I also think it's a crushing. I think I think some of it is a spiritual thing, but I think there's a crushing that people are feeling in so many areas. I am convinced we're probably on the same political spectrum, but I am convinced that I am done them telling me, don't really look at what you're seeing, because it's just listen to what I'm saying. What you're seeing is not the case. I'm done with the politicians and every pundit telling me, what you're really seeing is not really the case. Just listen to me. So yeah, I think all of those things. I don't have a lot of belief in crypto. In fact, I have no belief in crypto. Probably because it's not something I understand.
Sure.
If you probably do, you're brilliant. You understand it.
I wouldn't say that. I just think, until this Bitcoin ETF came out, I think that's going to be the kind of the end all, because now the Fed and the SEC and BlackRock, they can control the market now.
Yeah.
And but I also think there's room in there, but I think that should come last, right? That is an investment. So what we're talking about here is savings,
yes,
versus investing. And then before we can really even get to that, or while we're doing it, people need to get rid of this debt because it's eating them alive, right? And so if you'd like, maybe you can just share a little bit about your program or how this works. I've got a few slides that you sent me here.
I'll be glad to.
All right, so let's get to this. Can you see everything there?
I can. I would tell your listeners, your viewership, that I get a little animated about some things.
Okay.
I get animated about my grandkids. I get animated about I've been married 35 years. I have a great wife. I get animated about some things.
Yeah,
I also get animated. I'll get a bit animated about certain solutions
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying this is I'm not giving you advice. I'm just saying if debt makes you feel a certain way, there's a
Right.
good way, there's a better way, and there's the best way to address it. And
Mm-hmm.
so what you potentially can do is you can get a piece of paper and
Mm-hmm.
you can write down all of your debts. This is the traditional snowball effect. So the snowball starts small and it rolls down the hill. So in traditional debt snowball, if you've seen any of Dave Ramsey things, you've taken his classes, you can go to fidelity.com. They have a calculator that will show you how to pay down your debt.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of putting it all on paper, looking at it, taking a certain amount of money, and then accelerating that. So you're continuing to pay the minimum. But when
Mm-hmm.
you've got one paid off, you take that, let's just say it's $71 for that credit card. You
Mm-hmm.
take that $71 and you add it to the next one. And then
Mm-hmm.
when the student loan is paid off and it's 416, you take that 71 plus that 416 and you put it on the auto loan. None of this is magic. It's simply just math. Okay.
Right.
The challenge is that when you do it that way, you don't have anything left at the end. You're debt free, but you haven't built an asset. And
Right.
that's a good thing. If you do it this way, that's a good thing.
Right.
The better way is say, you know what? Talk to an advisor like Barry and say, Barry, help me get a handle on these finances. And Barry's going to ask you questions like, okay, let's look at your budget. Let's look at your income. Are you putting more in your 401k than you should above the match? Well, yeah, I'm doing that. Well, let's take those dollars and make them more efficient. Are you putting more in savings than you should? Let's whatever take those dollars, make them more efficient. So you begin making those dollars more efficient. Let's just say you find an extra $500 by finding the money, and then
Sure.
you do this same thing. So instead of the being $71 for $71 on the credit card, the minimum, you're saying 500 plus the 71. You be
So if I don't mean to interrupt you there, but
no,
I don't want you to get too far, and I want to kind of zero in on that a little bit. So you mentioned the $500 a month, right?
okay,
Now that's probably the biggest question that I always get from people whenever we're discussing maybe them doing infinite banking and paying off debt and whatnot. So they always want to know, how much is it? And I always just ask them, well, how much do you want to contribute, to your savings, right?
yeah,
And so, in your example here, I know this is, these are the debts laid out here, but what do you find, like, if somebody is making $50,000 a year, let's just call it, right? So 10% of that, easy math, is $5,000 a year, and
right.
$500 a month is $6,000 a year. But do you find that people are saving 10% of their income, or do you have to kind of start with them from scratch? And then also address, before you get too far into that, if you've got credit cards at 25-30%, what does that equate to as far as the saving or investment return? So didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
just before we get too far into it,
I think
that
this.
amount.
Feel free to interrupt anytime because I tell you I get a little animated. In some cases, I can't find any money. In some
Okay.
cases, I can't find any money. Their
Okay.
consumer's debt is so, and they're not saving. In those cases, they're not saving anything.
Gotcha. So they're not
They're
saving
just,
if you can't find it. But
yeah,
but typically, if somebody is saving or they want to save,
yes,
they've just got to commit to a plan to save,
that's
right?
right. And we find in some cases it may be $532. We went and found. I mean, Barry, you and I've been around long enough to know to remember guys saying, "Well, increase the deductible on something."
Sure.
You're trying to
Right.
find, you have just a finite amount of money that's coming through each month, but it is all efficient.
Mm-hmm.
One school of thought is they say eat beans and rice. And well, if you got to eat beans, I like beans and rice. So, but live on beans and rice and those kind of things. Well,
Yeah.
if that's your thing, so be it.
That was
But
yesterday. Red beans and rice down here, on the coast in Louisiana, right? On
no
Tuesday
doubt,
or on Mondays, I mean, day
I'm
before
never,
yesterday.
I'm never offended by that. I'm never, but I don't want to live on beans and rice. And
Right,
so
right, right.
it's this critical. Now, some individuals, we can find some money to
Mm-hmm.
begin building this savings account we're talking about.
Right.
In other situations, I can't. But those I can, we really get in the weeds about this is how much my budget is, this is how my income is. I can find additional dollars to make them more efficient. So one day I'm not crushed by this debt.
Sure.
Okay. So when you fast forward a little bit, at the end, if we're building a savings account, that's one thing. But if we build a tax smart or a tax-free savings account and we accomplish this thing of being out of debt. So there's a one advisor, when they say, what do you do? He said, I help people get out of debt 9 years or less. Is that
Right.
something you'd be interested in?
Yeah.
Well, those are good questions.
Sure.
I mean, if that's the case, are you doing it now? Would you like to know how to do it? I would stop here, Barry, and just say in this program, whether you do this program or any other, this program, the advisor, we don't charge anything.
Sure.
There's no cost.
And that I'm glad you brought that up because you see all these ads on TV and whatnot, and they say if you've got an account $500,000 or more, we'll talk to you, but they're not even going to talk to you, right? If you don't have that. And so somebody in debt will, in many cases, not even talk to advisors because they know that that's what they're going to talk to them about. It's all about the investment, right? But this is a totally different approach.
Completely.
And say, hey, what if we could turn your debt into assets, something that you are accumulating, and you can get rid of your debt and use it later in your life. So I like that approach. And and so you and I neither one of us, I've toyed with that. I am a registered financial consultant, and I could charge people a fee, and I've thought about it many times because most people in our business, that's what they do. But we try to approach it a little different and help people understand what's really going on with their money. So I like that approach. That's really good.
We get paid for our knowledge. We get paid for our ability to educate others. So we're going to get paid, but we just do it a different way. If you go to we'll go here and then we'll go forward. To summarize, this slide just shows what most debt is.
Sure.
Credit card, student loan, and auto debt. That's probably the bulk of the consumer debt out there.
Yeah.
And if you meet individuals that are struggling, that are the stress of this, all you have to do is Google what debt does to a relationship and stress. Then
you tell us. You're in the ministry and that's what you do. What do you see? I mean, are people stressed out? People tell me they can't sleep, but how does that affect the body and the mind if somebody has a lot of debt? And by the way, that 1847 credit card debt, I would say it's more like 18,000. When I talk to people lately. Yeah. But you tell me, what does it do to you if you're in debt? How do you see families? What does it do?
Google the biggest source of divorce.
Okay.
Debt.
Yeah.
It's this money thing. And so it's stress, it's heart attack, it's and I'm not going to get morbid about things. It's what that does. It captures us. Right. It captures us. It's fear.
Sure.
I'm never going to get out of this. I don't even want to think about it because it's such an insurmountable mountain that I just want to put it off. I mean, we're humans. That's what happens. And so, but you have plenty of individuals who say, you know what, I'm going to get a handle on this. And they just want to know the best way. And so these are the consumer debts. If you go to the next slide, I'm going to take my time here if you're all right with that.
Yeah. I mean, the debt, just to kind of add to that, it's really overwhelming. I see, but I've got family members and people that are, and I've been through it. I think that's one of the reasons I have such a heart, for people in this situation, but it's overwhelming and it's embarrassing. You don't want to talk to people, right? And that's why, having a trusted advisor, somebody that you can meet with that can just help you get through this, I think is very important. You just have to take the steps to do it. But here's the next slide if you want to cover that.
I want to take our time. Barry, how much time do we have?
Man, you talk as long as you want. I mean, I'll try to, probably another 20, 30 minutes at the most.
Okay, good. So Barry will put in the chat. He's going to put in the chat a link. Okay, I want to emphasize this. This doesn't cost you anything. You don't put any personal information. None of that. Barry's going to put this link in there. This
Yeah.
particular slide is one page from a client's. This is a slide from one client's.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Hang on. Let me get back up.
From the page of a complimentary report. And
Right.
the link is a landing page that really will talk about all of the things that Barry and I are talking about now, what debt does, the crushing debt. But I want you to imagine this. This client went in,
Mm-hmm.
and he went in and just, you notice there's not any account numbers. He could even not be truthful here. But he put in very meticulously the name of the company, the debt, the balance, the interest rate, the minimum payment, and it automatically calculates what the interest rate is. The calculator does that. So he
Wow.
did it for his credit card, his
Mhm.
boat, his other credit card, his car with Bank of America, his truck, and another mortgage with Bank of America. So you can see that the total balance on his debt was $327,000.
Mm.
Okay, 327. Go over just a little bit to where it says his payment each month. His debt service is $3,500, $3,576.
Right there.
But the monthly interest on those debts is $907. So the killer, the disease, the problem is all the way to the right. The effective interest rate he pays on his debt each month is 25%.
Right. And I don't think that's, you brought up the book earlier. Nelson, the author of that book, Nelson Nash, always pointed out it's the volume of interest, right? We get
Yes.
so caught up in the rates thinking, oh, I've got a 5 or 10% or 12 or whatever it is, right? But it's the volume of interest that we pay. So that effective rate is what they're paying basically on a monthly.
On a monthly.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You and I both know that mortgage of 3.2, it's only 3.2 at the last year.
Right.
It's probably 50% the first year, but the effective interest rate is 20. So I will ask them, I will say, let me ask you, can you pull out your investment statements? Because I want you to find me one of those accounts that is earning 25.36%. Could you find me one of those? Well, I don't have any one of those. Well, then that's the problem. How do you feel about debt? If there was something you could do about it, is that what would you want to do? And so when they get it, they ask questions about this and this and this. I'm going to always go back to the 25% effective interest rate.
That's a great point, because the people are so concerned about the return that they may be getting, on their investment or this account that you're about to share, but they get caught up in that, where if you want to get 25%, like you said, where else can you get that, right? Other than paying off your debt, right?
Yeah.
So just by paying off the debt, you're going to receive, that's a 25% return, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's hard for people to get their arms around that sometimes. They're putting all their money into these investments, but yet they're transferring away. And, I just did a video last week, on wealth transfers. And that's what we're talking about. This is money that's gone, and it's gone forever. It will never work for you again.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Barry's like me. He'll get animated about certain things, and that wealth transfer conversation. And so this page is one of about 7 pages of a complimentary report that you can get. There's no personal information. It goes to you. And if any of that made sense, you contact Barry, and he says we can get a little further in the weeds on what you can actually do. If you go to the next slide. So this particular situations, I want to show you what this is. This was the Debt Free for Life snowball in action. We took all of those debts. If you look at the left-hand side, it just moved over with minimum payments. They were going to be out of debt in 212 months, or 17.67 years.
Okay.
If they were staying on that track, about $92,000 in interest is what they were going to pay. But they participated in the Debt Free for Life plan. We found inefficient dollars and made these dollars efficient. and we began putting them in a tax-free account. Tax-free account. That's a little further in the conversation we can get in, but they begin to put the savings, perfect word, Barry, the savings, they begin to put their savings in a tax-free account. When there was enough in that savings and it triggered, they got a text message that said, congratulations, let's pay off that MasterCard. Then your advisor helps you get that part. And so if you go to the paid free, debt free for life, that third column, now they're going to be debt free in 6.17 years. 6.17 years, saving about $43,000 in interest.
That's huge.
Huge. Okay. So I go back to this question. If you got there and you didn't have $3,500 a month going out, where you're paying $900 in interest and 25% interest, how would you feel if you got there?
Mm-hmm.
So now in this scenario, they paid off $327,000. They've got about $227,000 in their tax-free account. They don't need the bank anymore. Okay, that's a whole nother. And I know Barry has great shows and information on that subject, but I get animated about that.
Okay? It's huge.
They don't need the bank anymore. So the good thing is get out of debt. The better thing is find some inefficient dollars, whether you do it this way. But the better way is build the tax-free account that you can then say, you know what, that car, that boat, all of those things, I can leverage those dollars now and turn compound interest in my favor. Turn it in my favor. Hey, Barry, so on the top of my book here, this, okay? My books, this is the one I did for medical professionals.
Okay.
It doesn't say this is investing. It says the number one long-term saving strategy. Because that's why I'm glad you brought up savings. It's savings. And so just so you readers know, for the complimentary book, there's a book for medical professionals. There's a book for business owners.
Right.
There's a book for grandparents.
Oh, fantastic.
There's a book for sales professionals. How you like that? You like that red?
I do. That's nice.
There's one for pastors. There's one for families.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought all of those up separately, because, some people think that, business owners will start there. They, automatically think business owners are all rich, right? Yeah. But business owners probably have bigger debt problems than anybody because they have cash flow issues, right? Yeah. And just getting to the next month sometimes, making payroll or whatever expenses that they have. And then doctors, I've got a lot of doctor clients. And, people think doctors, oh, they're rich, right? Well, they've got more debt than anybody. They make a lot of money, but they come out of college. You showed the student loan debt. I mean, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in student loan debt, right? Yeah. So, everybody at some point in their life will probably have some type of issue with debt. And just, in today's society with, like you said, the easy spending, the easy finance, that debt just seems to be mushrooming. And then along with that, you've got inflation, right? So many people have been living off their credit cards just to get by. So, that's amazing. I'm glad you shared that with us. And you're going to, if somebody goes through that, gets your report, they can get one of those books. Is that the offer?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So anybody can get a book. Anybody that's on this, if they want the book, to have them reach out to you, and we'll make sure that. And so I'll send you a list of all the books that are available.
Yeah.
The newest book is called The Missing Piece. So sure. Barry, what do you think The Missing Piece is about?
Wow. The Missing Piece. I don't know. You'll have to tell me. Tell me.
What do I love, Barry? What asset do I love?
Oh, well, I'm sure you love life insurance as much as I do. So talk to us a little bit about that. I know people are having questions. What is this tax-free account? So talk to us a little bit about that. What is the Missing Piece?
So it's kind of that you want to be a little stealth, but there's really no reason to be.
Exactly. I don't hide it.
I love the asset. I love the whole life insurance asset.
Sure.
I love it. I love it when it's done right. I think it should absolutely be a piece of everyone's portfolio. I don't I don't think everyone will understand it, but I definitely think it should be a piece. And so when we wrote The Missing Piece, it's an educational book because we cover many subjects in regards to finance.
Hmm.
But truthfully, at the end of the day, it shows how that if you don't have a properly structured whole life contract in your portfolio, you're missing it.
Sure.
It's the missing piece.
The
So
missing piece. I refer to it as the heart of your financial plan, right?
yeah,
Everything kind of depends on that. First of all, it's about love. That's why people get life insurance, right? Is they love their family. They want to make sure that they're taken care of. So that's the love part of it, right? But then it does so much more that the public is just unaware of, I
yeah,
find.
they are.
And so they need somebody like yourself or me to help them understand it. But tell me, I mean, in your personal experience, because you and we're kind of knocking on that retirement door ourselves, right? So
Yeah.
let's just say somebody, they met with you and they're in their 40s, but they're, that's really, I don't think people even start thinking about real retirement. Most folks that I talk to anyway, till they get maybe in their 50s. But, now that you're getting closer, what's kind of your plan? Will life insurance be a part of your retirement?
We have six policies.
Wow.
I think I forget how many you have. We have six.
9,
No,
counting the kids.
we just opened a new one on my wife. That one's 30,000 a year. Um, yeah, so we
So,
put
so
some.
people freak out. I got to stop there. So 30,000 for the wife, right? So
Yeah,
if you didn't believe in this, y'all wouldn't be doing it, right? I
no,
mean,
no,
and you've been doing it a while. Personally, I'm in my 20th year now, and just the more I do it, the more I believe in it. You
yeah,
know, and
yeah.
and so how can it help though with retirement? I mean, what's
So
your plan
I
for
think
that?
I think it goes back to that earlier in our conversation that said I didn't wake up and get a degree and go work at Boeing or work at GMAC or I didn't work. That's not my field. So anything retirement wise, I will say I don't know that I'm ever really going to retire. As long as I'm lucid, because I have a face for radio, as you can see. But as long as I'm lucid and have a yellow pad and can talk about this, why not? Why not? But thinking about those future years, I had to find a way to where I was personally going to put dollars. And
Sure.
I'm not a big believer in risk on that as far as what the market does. Absolutely not. I've learned over the years that if I can take my income from tax advantage or tax free assets, whether it's a Roth or property structured life insurance, that all the taxes will have been paid. So I'm not worried about taxes going up. And those are mostly the things. So I have real estate. Real estate is part of our portfolio. Life insurance contracts are part of our portfolio. I own two other businesses. My daughter's a partner in one of our businesses. It's an e-commerce business that she's a registered nurse. Pretty cool story. We take a distribution from that now, and we'll probably take that forever. So, but I'm always about the tax-free stuff.
Sure.
I because I think taxes are going to go up. And if I'm taking my income from tax advantage or tax free assets, I'm not worried about who's the president.
Yeah.
Now, if it all goes crazy, look, hopefully my heart's right and I'm ready to go. So he can come anytime he wants. We're ready to go. So we're people of faith. But my retirement or my later years, buddy of mine called it the season of significance. He didn't call it retirement. He said season of significance. And you have clients who are in their 60s that are just living life. I have clients that are 60s and 70s that are just a new career or something like that. So my mindset is a little bit of an outlier.
No.
I'm not looking to just have retirement in my 401k at retirement. That's that's not me. We're gonna have assets that pay us. Our income from our life insurance contracts will be tax exempt. They will so you can hear that's the strategies that we teach. That's what we live. So
what you're talking about there is having multiple streams of income, and that's what I love to share with people, because so many people, maybe they have a good job, they get comfortable in that job, but there's so many things that could go wrong, right? Disability, you could lose your job, you could get laid off, there's so many things that could go wrong. So we'd like to create multiple streams of income. And I know that in your practice there, retirement planning is a big part of it. And you mentioned the voice for radio. So I know you used to have a radio show. Do you still have a radio show?
Not here in St. Louis. When we were in Louisiana, we had our radio show.
Okay.
Here, the radio was full. I mean, radio is very expensive.
Oh yeah.
But it was already full of advisors,
Sure.
and so we do things different with
Yeah.
social media, with the web. We can.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was just going to let people tune in if you still had that. But just in closing here, you mentioned your daughter and the business you have there, and you're a grandpa. And you told me before we got started, you just became grandfather again. So tell us a little bit about your family, and what's really important to you, David, about your family and theirs. What concerns you, and what's really important as far as that goes, your legacy?
Well, I appreciate you asking. Oddly enough, I am speaking at an event in Texas at the end of February. And this is my second time speaking. It's called Kingdom Works. It's an entrepreneur ministry conference. So I spoke the first year, and they've asked me to speak again. And the subject they asked me to speak on was legacy planning. Now it's a Kingdom Works, so it's a faith-based business conference, and so I'm speaking on legacy, and I'll make this short. So I'm speaking on tangible and intangible things. Tangible things are if someone leaves you wealth and inheritance, you can touch it. I've got my grandfather's shotgun. Okay, so that's a tangible thing. I can look at it. The intangible things, now I know you're a person of faith. The intangible things are things that you don't see. It's the history of the family. It's, for me, my grandfather was a great man of faith. I love his shotgun, but I promise you what he gave to me as far as faith is much more valuable to me. So my greatest calling, Barry, the greatest thing, there's not a trophy, there's not an award, there's not a financial statement that even gets close to rise to the level of the greatest calling I have is to be a dad. 100% is to be a dad. I'm most grateful for that God's been faithful to us. And so my legacy is, it may be a financial statement, it's really not. It's going to be hopefully values and experiences and faith that we've had the privilege of imparting. So that's the short answer to, I'm a dad now, I'm a grandfather. And so I've been blessed.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that, David. I'll put it in the chat, but I'm going to show, this is how you can get in touch with David, davidsalser.com. And also, if you want that free gift, he's giving away a book. Here's the link. You're not going to be able to click that. If you see it in the chat, you can, but you have to put those numbers in there at the end there so you get your free gift. So David will communicate with you about that. But is there anything, any way else that people can get in contact with you, or you wanted to share, David? Is that the best way for people to
that's the best way. That's the best way. Yeah, and if you have more trouble, Barry has my number. He can send you that link. But that's absolutely the best way.
Well, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, David, and thank you out there for joining us. If you didn't catch us live, we'll be able to. That replay will be up here shortly. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.